I earned my degree online at Arizona State University. I chose to get my degree at ASU because I knew that I'd get a quality education, they were recognized for excellence, and that I would be prepared for the workforce upon graduating. To be associated with ASU, both as a student and alum, it makes me extremely proud, and having experienced the program, I know now that I'm set up for success. Learn more at asuonline.asu.edu.
With so many options, why choose Arizona State University?
For me, the only online option was ASU because of the quality. Their faculty was really involved with their students and care about your personal journey. The dedication to my personal development from my professors, that's been extremely valuable to me.
Earn your degree from the nation's most innovative university. Online. That's a degree better. Explore more than 350 plus undergraduate, graduate, and certificate programs at asuonline.asu.edu.
I earned my degree online at Arizona State University. I chose to get my degree at ASU because I knew that I'd get a quality education, they were recognized for excellence, and that I would be prepared for the workforce upon graduating. To be associated with ASU, both as a student and alum, it makes me extremely proud, and having experienced the program, I know now that I'm set up for success. Learn more at asuonline.asu.edu.
AFR On Demand is brought to you by Breck Golf. Try Beaver Creek today, just 20 minutes from downtown Baton Rouge in the Zachary area. They've got a PGA Tour driving range, a short game practice area, 30 to 40-yard practice shots. It's a great place to chip and putt and practice if you don't have time for a full round. Book your tee time today, golf.breck.org, golf.breck.org.
Brewing Company, Cincinnati, Ohio. Please drink responsibly.
Matt Moscona.
I'm very important.
After further review.
Say it one more time.
After further review with Matt Moscona.
And here we go.
Live from the Mercedes-Benz of Baton Rouge studio.
Let's ride! Go!
And off we go. Welcome aboard. Glad you're with us. AFR presented by Relief Windows. I'm Matt.
This is Shaq O'Neal, and I hate Matt.
Paul O'Neal.
Chanting Paul O'Neal's name.
And Mr. Toby Tomplay. All right, we're here. Glad you are as well. Get out there and make it a good one. Saints just 2 days away from the start of training camp. Mike Triplett next hour. We got Ronnie Rance talking about bringing the UFC back to New Orleans after a gigantic weekend. Ton to do. Let us begin as we do every single day.
It's time to pop the top on another edition of AFR with Bud Light. Drink easy.
It is an annual rite of passage here as we are on the brink of the start of another college football season. Our friend Bud Elliott releases his blue chip ratio, and that happened over the weekend. If you're not familiar with the blue chip ratio, this is essentially the line of demarcation between the haves and the have-nots. This is not to say that if you meet this criteria, you are going to win the national championship. It is only to say that if you do not cross this threshold, you cannot win the national championship. So Bud Elliott went back and looked at every national champion all the way back to 2011, when you can go back as far as recruiting rankings go, in the current format anyway. And every single national champion, every one of them, has a blue chip ratio above 50%. If you're wondering what that means over a 4-year period, have you recruited more 5 and 4 stars than 3 and 2 stars? Meaning the majority of your roster has to be 5 and 4 stars over a 4-year period of recruiting. And if not, you don't meet the blue chip ratio, you cannot win the national championship. For example, go back to 2011 Alabama, 71%. 2012 Alabama, 71%. Florida State in 2013 was at 53%. 2016, Clemson won it with the lowest total at 52%. Michigan a couple of years ago was at 54%. Last year, Ohio State was at 90%. 90% of their roster was 5 and 4 stars. So if you're wondering, by the way, 2019 LSU, 64%. So if you're wondering how it all shakes out, that's what we're all looking at with respect to the blue chip ratio. Is the majority of your roster over a 4-year period in recruiting made up of 5 and 4 stars. So I'll tell you how it shaked out this year, specifically what it means for LSU. But there's one gigantic thing that they have not figured out. You could probably guess what it is. And Bud disputes this, but I disagree with him. I'll explain why here in just a quick second. So at the top of the blue chip ratio this year is Alabama and Ohio State, each with 89% of their roster made up of 4 and 5 stars over the last 4 years in recruiting. Georgia, 84%, Texas A&M, 82%, Oregon, 78%, Texas, 78%, then there's LSU at 73%. Followed by Notre Dame, Oklahoma, Penn State, Miami, Florida, Auburn, Michigan, Southern Cal, Clemson, Tennessee, and Florida State. So those are your 18. It's not to say those are the teams that are going to win the championship. You're going to win the championship. Just say that the national champion this year is going to be one of the 18 teams that I just mentioned. Here's my problem. And by the way, I'm not disputing the validity of the blue chip ratio because clearly it is a methodology that is proven over 2 decades now. And a decade and a half. My issue are the transfers and how you account for that. Now, look, one thing's for certain. The SEC is still dominant. Of the 18 teams I just mentioned, 9 are from the SEC. By the way, not a single team from the Big 12, and none particularly close to being in the blue chip ratio as well. Maybe Texas Tech, if they keep spending the way they are over 3-4 years, can get into that mix. And with an expanded playoff, you're going to get non-blue chip ratio teams into the field. They're just not going to win the championship. I mentioned TCU. Well, look at Boise a year ago, or SMU, or Arizona State. None of those are blue chip ratio teams, but they got in an expanded playoff. It's just to say they're not going to win the championship. The transfers are my issues because you're looking at having more 4 and 5 star signees over the last 4 recruiting cycles. And there's 2 problems with this. One is it's not accounting for the transfers you bring in. And number 2, guys don't stay. Let me give you an example. If you're looking at the last 4 classes, it's the class of 2025, the current freshmen, 24, 23, and 22. So go from 2022 through the current class that just signed. In 2022, Quincy Wiggins, Walker Howard, LaTerrence Welch, DeMario Tolan were all blue chip ratio guys that transferred. Will Campbell is a blue chip ratio guy. He's in the NFL. He ain't even on the roster anymore. That's 5 from that class. The 2023 class, there are 11 4 and 5 star players that signed with LSU in the class of 2023 that are no longer on the roster. Lance Hurd, Deshaun Womack, Jalen Brown, Kamorian Pimpton, Jackson Howard, Shelton Sampson, Ricky Collins, Ryan Yates, Christian Braithwaite, Kai Prion, Mac Markway. All of the 11 guys I just mentioned, they all count for LSU on the blue chip ratio, although none of them play for LSU anymore. That's 16 players over a 2-year period that, and by the way, LSU had lost none from the 24 class, which is great. All the 4 and 5 stars that were freshmen a year ago are still on the roster. But look outside of LSU. Caleb Downs is a great example. I just mentioned Alabama, which is still benefiting off of the historical success that Nick Saban and his staffs had, because you're talking about a 4-year cycle, which still accounts for a lot of Nick Saban. Well, Caleb Downs still counts for Alabama because he was recruited in a cycle 3 years ago, or two years ago, to Alabama. Well, he went to Alabama as a freshman, left, he's about to begin his second season at Ohio State. but he counts towards Alabama's blue chip ratio. That doesn't make a lick of sense. Flip it the other way. When talking about incoming transfers, a guy that I've mentioned that I think is a case in point of this is A.J. Halsey. A.J. Halsey, when he was coming out of high school, was a 3-star recruit. He was the number 1,900 player nationally, 1,900 overall out of any position. He goes to Houston, becomes a first-team All-Big 12 safety, and leads their conference in interceptions. Now he plays for LSU. Is LSU better at safety because they have A.J. Halsey? I think so. But if Sage Ryan were still on the team as a 5-star, he helps you toward the blue chip ratio while Halsey doesn't. Who would you rather have if I gave you the option? So even still, I think the blue chip ratio holds. It holds up because I think it's what it illustrates is that over the last 15 years, yes, the 4-year recruiting cycle was relevant. And it identified the teams that invested the most money in their coaching staff, their facilities, their support staff, their recruiting budget, all the things that allowed you to recruit the best players. Those programs are still doing that. They've just moved the target from investing so heavily and solely into high school recruiting into now investing into NIL and into your collective and now revenue share. And all of those resources are still being used to build the best rosters. So whether you look at it as a 4-year rolling average or you work in the transfer portal or however it may be, it's still telling us the same thing. This is the very small, relatively small group of teams that are investing the resources into being at a different level of great in college football, which makes you capable of winning a national championship. But the good news for LSU is they're on the list, and they will always be on the list because LSU will always invest whatever they need to invest to make sure they are capable of competing for and winning national championships. And this year is certainly evidence of that. We'll see if we can get Bud Elliott on the show. Hey, Show Open Every Day is brought to you by Bud Light. Drink easy with the great taste of Bud Light, the official beer of AFR. Man, I was watching UFC 318, was there in that number on Saturday. Unfortunately, Dustin the Diamond Poirier came up a little short. But Poirier, of course, is a Bud Light athlete, and it was really cool, man. When he was leaving the octagon, there's a great video of him. It's a 5-minute video. You can see it on Twitter. It's from him dropping his gloves in the octagon, playing Frank Sinatra, My Way, and then walking out, hugging his family, hugging celebrities. Ryan Clark, Mark Ingram were there, Theo Vaughn, and one of the people in his crew hands him a Bud Light. And so he's sitting there walking out, cracked open the Bud Light. He's drinking it as he's walking out of the arena, which was the whole thing was really cool. But listen, Bud Light, the official beer of AFR, the official beer of the LSU Tigers, official beer of the New Orleans Saints, official beer of the UFC, official beer of Dustin the Diamond Poirier, Louisiana's own. So next time you're out and about, make sure you grab an ice cold Bud Light and raise one to Dustin the Diamond Poirier on an incredible career. Unfortunately, didn't go out with a win, but forever a champion, man. It was great to watch him for one final time there in that number in the Smoothie King Center on Saturday. Drink easy with the great taste of Bud Light. Okay, y'all, it's After Further Review. Monday shows are brought to you by Relief Windows. Man, we got a ton to get to today. Speaking of UFC 318, of course, New Orleans did an incredible job hosting. Ronnie Ranch, who's the head of the Louisiana Fight Commission now, if you're not familiar with that, is going to join us in about 45 minutes, top of hour number 2, because I want to talk about what will it entail to get the UFC back to New Orleans again and not wait 10 years. That's something Dana White talked about after the fight on Saturday. Mike Triplett's here in 1 hour from right now. The Saints a couple days away from starting training camp. When we come back, it was contentious, but the Saints finally agreed to their contract with Tyler Shough. We'll get into that. And Shough was a guest on John Gruden's podcast, Gruden Goes Long. We'll let you hear from the Saints quarterback as we continue on AFR.
After Further Review.
We are brought to you by Clegg's Nursery with 4 locations in the greater Baton Rouge area, Siegen near Airline, LA 16 in Denham, Mid-City on Donmore, and the Garden Center on Greenwell Springs. Tell you every day to buy local and shop local. Y'all, if you want to get rid of some of those unwanted pests, you can do it to Clegg's. You could do it with the help of Clegg's. I've told you for a long time that Clegg's has the Aeon mosquito barrier. If you have problems with mosquitoes at your house and you want to get rid of them and you don't know how, go to Clegs. I'm telling you, I don't know how this thing works so effectively, but it does. It's the size of a track baton. You take the top off. There's granules in there. You fill it with water, shake it, hang it on your property line. You're done with mosquitoes for 90 days at a time. It's like $30. So get on by Clegs Nursery. What do you have to lose? If it doesn't work for you, $30. I'm telling you, we got a pool and a pond behind my house, and we don't have mosquitoes, and that's the only thing I use. So buy local, shop local, and tell them Matt sent you in when you go see our friends at Clegs Nursery.
After further review, presented by Relief Windows. Windows, doors, siding, and oh yeah, they also do interior shutters.
Mike Triplett will be here in 1 hour from right now. No doubt we'll talk in part about Tyler Shough. So this had kind of become a little bit, I don't want to say contentious, but they got close to an imposed deadline here. Up until this weekend, Tyler Shough and the New Orleans Saints had not agreed to terms on his contract. And it's odd because after the CBA in 2011, which capped rookie contracts, you basically have slot value associated with every draft pick now. You don't see holdouts like with Jamarcus and Sam Bradford. Like those were the guys that kind of broke the system. You had these dudes that got $60 million cash and they busted. I shouldn't say Sam Bradford was a bust, but certainly for the money he got, didn't live up to what they had hoped there in St. Louis. But it was interesting because until this year, no second-round pick had ever gotten a fully guaranteed contract that had been reserved for first-rounders. Well, the first two picks of the second round this year ended up getting fully guaranteed deals. And so agents of second-round draft picks started saying, wait, what about my guy? And so they used that as leverage to try to reset the market, which is exactly what a good agent should do. And in the end, the top 8 picks of round 2 ended up getting fully guaranteed deals. Remember, like the NBA, Major League Baseball, those are fully guaranteed. Shohei Ohtani signs a $750 million contract. He's getting every dollar of that $750 million. In the NBA, if you're the 8th guy on the bench and you sign a $46 million free agent deal, you're getting every dollar of that money. Zion Williamson, no matter how often injured he is, he's getting every dollar of his Supermax deal. In the NFL, we break down, when we talk about contracts, we talk about the guaranteed money, and like the total value of the contract, and the guaranteed money, which is a percentage of the total value. If you play out the total value, you play out the total contract, you can get that. And there's a lot of times roster bonuses and other things, incentives that are baked into those numbers, which makes it a bit more ambiguous, but also makes it harder for these guys to make all their money. Well, Tyler Shough ended up being the last guy to get a fully guaranteed deal. And I'm okay with it, by the way. I always look at money and contracts is that I don't care what people make. I'm a free market capitalist. If, like I just mentioned, the 8th guy on an NBA bench makes a $40 million, great. Congratulations. God bless you. You hit the genetic lottery. You worked really hard. And you made a bunch of money that hopefully changes your family's lives and your children's children, so on. That's awesome. I'm pumped for you. The same way I'd be pumped if you're 18 and in your college dorm room, you're starting a tech company and you become a godzillionaire. You're Mark Zuckerberg. I'm pumped for you. That's just what being a free market capitalist allows. I love it. So I don't care what they make. The only reason I care about money and contracts and all is to whatever degree it impacts the salary cap, because that impacts directly your opportunity to win. How you take the money you're allowed to spend on your roster and how you divvy it up and allocate it. It's why we talk so much about the Saints and how careless they've been in doing bad deals and bad contracts, because it's really limited their ability to go be aggressive in free agency to build a roster capable of winning. It's a big part of why they're in the situation they're in. So I'm okay with the Saints being staunch negotiators here with Tyler Shough or with any player. Like, it's not anything contentious or anything against the player. It's a business decision. It's why players hire agents, and you let the agent deal with the general manager, the team president, and the coach, and the player can go worry about football. And specifically with Tyler Shough, his deal as the 40th overall pick is just over $10 million. So whenever you look at the money specifically, it's just, it would have been a variance of about $1 million or so. On his $10 million deal, it was like $10.075 million, or 10.75. He would have gotten 92% of it guaranteed. Instead, now he gets 100. So again, it's a difference of about $1 million over the life of the deal. So good for Tyler Shough. I'm glad they got it done for a couple of reasons. Primarily, if Tyler Shough is going to be your starting quarterback, I don't want to go into training camp having Tyler Shough not participate. Even one day, one rep. Like, if this is a guy at 25 who's come in the league, he's Kellen Moore's handpicked guy and is going to be the starter, then he needs every single rep because he's already behind Spencer Rattler, who got to play in 6 games a year ago. So he needs them all. He needs all the reps possible at practice. So I'm glad they got this done so he's not holding out and missing practice at the beginning of camp, which all is very important. But I also think this is further reason to believe that Tyler Shough is, in fact, going to be QB1. If we're sitting here thinking about the perceived idea of a quarterback competition, they can talk about that, and maybe there will be a true quarterback competition. But when you look at all the different variables, every piece of circumstantial evidence points to Tyler Shough being the guy. I mean, first and foremost, this coaching staff knew what they had in Spencer Rattler. When they took over, Rattler and Haener were on the roster. Rattler started a year ago. They had plenty of film on and tape on him. They certainly studied him during the draft as well. And they still decided to go draft Tyler Shough. I mean, I'll give you a non-NFL related example. It's the Jaden Daniels, Miles Brennan thing. Brennan was the fan favorite going into the 2022 season. Well, when Brian Kelly got here, he went and signed Jaden Daniels out of the transfer portal. Some fat, bald radio guy at the time kept insisting Jaden Daniels was going to be the starter, which seems obvious now, but it wasn't at the time, because Brian Kelly and his staff wouldn't have gone and signed Daniels if they were believers in Brennan. They weren't. Same here. Kellen Moore wouldn't have used the 40th overall pick to take a quarterback if he staunchly believed that Spencer Rattler was going to be his guy. So that's part of the circumstantial evidence. And also, he's Kellen Moore's guy. They have a big investment in him with the 40th overall pick. Now they have a financial investment, giving him all these guarantees, not only 100% of the contract, but also he's got most of his pay as a guaranteed roster bonus. So most NFL guys get a weekly game check. The bulk of Tyler Shough's money is going to be an annual roster bonus. So as long as he's on the roster at the beginning of the year, he's getting his money. He doesn't have to wait weekly for a game check to get it. So it's just another way they structured it that benefits Shough, which shows further investment into the player and why he's very likely going to be the guy. The guarantees, these guaranteed deals for second-round picks had to stop somewhere. You can say, well, everybody was getting a guarantee. Not everybody. It stopped with Tyler Shough. The 41st pick did not get a 100% guarantee deal. But the Saints chose to do this with Shough, showing how much they believe in him as their guy. So they'll open up training camp here in a couple of days, and I don't know how they'll divvy up the reps. Rattler, Haener, Shough, Haener, Rattler, whatever. And ultimately, it'll get pared down, but I think it will be Tyler Shough that will be standing at the top as QB1 when the Saints open up the season week 1. Tyler Shough was a guest on Gruden Goes Long, John Gruden's podcast, and he was asked why he believes he could be the long-term answer at quarterback for New Orleans.
I think it's because of my journey, who I am and what I've done in my career, how I've kind of stuck through it. I kind of bring that to the table every single day. I feel like I come in with a little bit of an intensity, going out there and ripping it, trying to spread the ball down the field, be very multiple on offense.
This is also a big transition with Tyler Shough working with Kellen Moore, because since 2006, even when Sean Payton left, Pete Carmichael was still hanging around. So I could say a year ago was the first time where there wasn't a lingering thread of Sean Payton. But now, with the quarterback turnover as well, a brand new staff, an offensive-minded head coach, a new offensive coordinator, I mean, it's just a complete total turnover. So we're going to learn what Kellen Moore wants as an offensive-minded head coach. And Tyler Shough shared his opinions of Kellen Moore.
He's one of the smartest people I've been around in this short amount of time. And I think the most impressive thing to me is how he's done it in different systems him calling it for different quarterbacks, he's been able to adapt and mold around different guys and still has success. And I think that's really hard to do. And I think we're being able to kind of contextualize it in his own way this year with the Saints and hopefully shape it around a really good team. And I got to just do my part and learn from him and try and contribute.
It's an interesting observation because it's one of the things we mentioned. He had Dak Prescott, who's a really good passer, but also has the mobile dynamic. He has Justin Herbert, who probably a better athlete than he gets credit for, but really is just the strong arm pocket passer. And then he had Jalen Hurts, who came into the league really as a running back, playing quarterback, who has developed in the passing game and been quite good. Now, it helps when you've got Devontae Smith and A.J. Brown. They got incredible receivers in Philadelphia. But he's right that Kellen Moore has made this offense work with 3 different stylistic quarterbacks, and now he has a guy like Tyler Shough coming in. And Shough was also asked by Gruden his honest expectation for his rookie season.
My expectation is to go out there and play at the highest level I can. I think you saw it from Bo Nix and Daniels last year. Why not? Why not go out there and rip it? I think everything that's been preparing me for this, I'm not going to go out there all scared and to make mistakes and stuff like that. And there's going to be ups and downs, but I'm going to do everything I can to try and make the team better.
I don't think Jaden was a surprise a year ago. Maybe the level of greatness to which he excelled, but he was the 2nd overall pick, and I think his accuracy was such key. His accuracy, his decision-making helped him transition, then, of course, his ability to run. But the Bo Nix comp, I think, is an interesting one. I mean, Nix had, with Sean Payton, was Sean Payton's guy, really smart offensive coach, identified him. He worked so well within that system a season ago. So maybe that is a good comp. If this is the smart offensive coach and Kellen Moore identifying the quarterback he wanted in Tyler Shough and then being able to make that transition together in year one. It'll be fascinating to see, man. But you know what else? One more thing. In this interview that Shough did with John Gruden, the longest answer he gave wasn't when talking about himself, his game, his toughness, his journey. The longest answer he gave was when he talked about facing the Saints veterans on defense in practice.
You're seeing elite-level disguises every single day, elite-level pass rushes. Chase Young, Cam Jordan, Carl Granderson, you got DeMario Davis, Pete Werner, all these guys. And then on the back end, Justin Reed and Alontae Taylor, Tyrann Mathieu, Kool-Aid McKinstry. So it's like, every single rep in practice matters. And I think that was the biggest thing in OTAs was it's boom, boom, check down, boom, boom. The window is right there. So a lot of times you don't even know what they're going to be in because Jay Reed's going to be spinning this way, clouding that way, going back to the post, dropping down. And I think you just got to trust it. And they've been really big for me. I've played golf with Jay Reed a couple times, how smart he is, what he's looking for at the QB position. And I'm excited to just continue to go.
You want to endear yourself to veterans? You want to endear yourself to veterans and the rest of your team? Give them all the flowers when they're not sitting right there. Pretty smart thing. Pretty heady play there by Tyler Shough. All right, it's after further review. Glad you're hanging out with us, y'all. We're brought to you by Rouse's 65 years in business, man. Congrats to Donnie Rouse, the entire Rouse's family. 65 years in business, still locally owned, still family owned and operated. 70 locations from Lake Charles to Orange Beach in between. And they're celebrating their 65 years in business over at Rouse's with great deals and specials all summer long. So make sure you get into Rouse's if you're looking for dinner on your way home tonight. Maybe you're looking for a quick stop for lunch. You can always go to the hot bar. The menu's always there. Or maybe you're doing your shopping as you're heading home, making groceries for your mom and them. You can always go into Rouse's. Look for that Rouse's branded logo. All the Rouse's branded products, they go to great lengths to make sure they source locally every opportunity they can at Rouse's. The official supermarket of the New Orleans Saints, Rouse's.com, Rouse's.com. Rouse's, this feels like home. All right, we'll go around the SEC when we come back. A couple of weeks ago, we shared with you, Wilson Alexander, the Advocate, had the piece where he broke down how LSU is going to distribute its revenue in revenue share, right? 75% for football, 15% for men's basketball, 5% for women's basketball, 5% for the rest of the sports. Wait until you hear what Kentucky is doing. I'll tell you that next on AFR.
After further review.
Man, I love telling you about Action Industries. A great local business, man. So impressed to watch Action Industries and to learn about their business and how they work. A couple of years ago, they even were heading down a path where they made a very conscious decision to take a few small steps back so that way they could propel themselves forward for another 43 years. They just know who they are, which is so impressive. And I say it often, but like there's mega contractors that do these $200 million jobs. Like Action Industries is never going to bid on that. That's not what they do. But sometimes maybe you hire that mega contractor for your 100-person job and you don't feel like you're getting their best. Well, at Action Industries, that's their sweet spot. You're getting their best managers, their best people, their best everything, all of their attention. So check them out. Online at actionindinc.com, Action Industries Incorporated. Of course, they've got the Advanced Turnaround Group as well. Check them out. It's Action Industries, proud partner of LSU Athletics.
After further review, presented by Relief Windows. Windows, doors, siding, and we do shutters too.
A couple of weeks ago, Wilson Alexander over at The Advocate had an exclusive where he got the breakdown of how LSU will divvy up its money in revenue share. So remember, just as a very sort of quick overview, with the new House settlement, athletic departments are now allowed to share up to $20.5 million of its revenue with its student athletes. Now, how they distribute that revenue is up to each school. LSU has chosen to give football 75% of that money. Men's basketball will get 15%. It's about $3 million. Women's basketball is going to get 5%. It's about $1 million. And then the rest of the sports are going to share 5%. Now, there's a pretty complicating factor there, which is LSU baseball. Because you've won 2 national titles in 3 years, and you're basically telling Jay Johnson you're going to share 5% of this revenue with gymnastics and volleyball and swimming and diving and track and field and softball and golf and everybody. I can't imagine that's going to go over super awesome with Jay after winning 2 titles in 3 years. But again, it just illustrates the conundrum that a lot of these schools are going to have. The University of Kentucky, let's call it what it is, man. They're a basketball school. Remember John Calipari a couple years ago really ticked off Mark Stoops when he said that very publicly. That when he was at Kentucky, he said, we're a basketball school. It really angered Mark Stoops, who's fighting against that his entire time in Lexington. Well, it's one thing for a coach to say it. It's another for the administrators to show it. Kentucky, this is a report from Matt Norlander over at CBS. Kentucky is going to spend 45% of its revenue share on basketball. Y'all, that's nearly half of the $20.5 million. And it's going to basketball. I mean, I understand that basketball matters greatly at Kentucky. And they are very clearly showing you here that is their priority. It's being great in basketball. But the real consequence here for Mark Stoops and that football program is that team, which won 1 league game last year, went 1-7. With this lack of commitment, it's showing very clearly that Kentucky is going to stay there. Whereas Mark Stoops had built a program that was pretty consistently a 7-8 win team, a bowl team every year, and could maybe pop a big season every decade or so. If you had the right, confluence of circumstance, you get the right quarterback in there. Will Levis was a big get when they got him in from Penn State. But the point is, the era of buying rosters, it's just dawning right now. And Kentucky is saying to their football coach, yeah, basketball is way more important than you. We need to be making Final Fours, not college football playoffs. And if that's your prerogative, mazel tov, but man, it really feels like misplaced priorities when you have the opportunity at a much higher ceiling in football, financially, awareness, revenue, all of it, than you do in men's basketball. But they're telling you what they care about. And it's such an interesting parallel, because I just got done telling you about what LSU's lack of commitment is for Jay Johnson's baseball program, because LSU is looking at this, has to be looking at this financially. Of course you're going to invest in football, and then your second largest investment is going to be in men's basketball, because it's the only thing that makes money. And while women's basketball is losing you $8 million a year, at least it's a loss leader. You know, it's getting you tremendous exposure and eyeballs and awareness and lots of other things. Branding. My goodness, Kentucky, 45% of its revenue in basketball. Good luck, Mark Pope. All right, brought to you by South Point Volkswagen, southpointvw.com. New and certified pre-owned in Baton Rouge and online at southpointvw.com, southpointvw.com. Y'all pop on by the dealership or shop online. Average car buyer visits 1.2 dealerships. Everybody shops online now, like we do for everything else. But the automotive industry is no different. We used to spend a Saturday hopping around dealership to dealership, haggling over prices. Not no more. Everything's right there on the website. So you want to search the inventory, new and certified pre-owned. You want to work out your financing. It's all right there for you at southpointvw.com. Louisiana's largest volume Volkswagen dealer. They can give you the best deals. And remember, manufactured right in the USA, right there in the USA at their Chattanooga, Tennessee plant. So you don't have to worry about tariffs as well. You're going to get the great German engineering without the cost, the safety features, and you're supporting American jobs. What more could you want? South Point Volkswagen. SouthPointVW.com. South Point Volkswagen. What's your direction? Okay, y'all. It is after further review. We do it every day about this time. Let's go around the SEC.
Around the SEC, bringing you the biggest news from the nation's best conference. The Ole Miss Rebels.
This is tragic. Ole Miss freshman football player Corey Adams was killed Saturday night in a shooting in Tennessee. 18-year-old died at the scene just outside of Memphis. 4 other men were shot at the residence. They were taken to area hospitals. None are listed in critical condition, which is the good news. But Adams, it hits home for a lot of people in the state. Adams, defensive lineman, who's from New Orleans. He was a 2-time All-State player at Edna Carr, enrolled at Ole Miss this winter. So no arrests have been made. The investigation continues. But Ole Miss freshman Corey Adams from New Orleans, shot and killed, died at the age of 18 over the weekend.
The Georgia Bulldogs.
Georgia offensive lineman Jazari Jackson was arrested on drug-related charges. He's an offensive lineman, felony possession of marijuana, more than 1 ounce. Faces an additional 3 drug-related charges, according to the Athens Banner-Herald. Booked into Clark County Jail Wednesday before midnight, released on bond, totaling more than $5,000. The other 3 charges, by the way, are misdemeanors.
The Texas Longhorns.
Texas added 5-star running back Derek Cooper, the number 1 running back in the country for the class of 2026. He picked Texas over Florida State, Georgia, Miami, and Ohio State. 6'2", 205, had previously been committed to Georgia. He's out of the state of Florida, the number 7 overall prospect. He's the second highest rank of 6 top 100 recruits committed to Steve Sarkisian's class.
The South Carolina Gamecocks.
Landon Duckworth is committed to South Carolina, rejoining the 2026 class. 6'3", 195 out of Jackson, Alabama. He's the number 51 overall player in the country, the 6th best quarterback. He chose South Carolina over Auburn, originally committed to South Carolina in August of 23, decommitted in June of 24. Now he's back in the Carolina class.
Texas A&M!
The Aggies have landed a commitment from 4-star safety Tylen Wilson, 6'3", 172. He's the number 242 prospect nationally, the 20th best safety, according to the 24/7 composite. Wilson is the 26th commit for A&M's class. All right, there you have it. That is Around the SEC. Monday shows are brought to you by Relief Windows and reliefwindows.com. Windows, doors, siding. Oh, yeah, they do shutters as well. Relief Windows and reliefwindows.com. And remember, they do offer you a lifetime transferable warranty. Lots of companies can say that, but they've only been around for a year or two. How do you know they're going to be around to offer you a lifetime transferable warranty? With Relief Windows, nearly 2 decades in business. Never have to worry about that. Relief Windows and reliefwindows.com. Okay, y'all, let me knock out a quick break, come back, and wrap up hour number 1 on a Monday edition of AFR.
AFR.
GLO, glowresources.com, glowresources.com. They are complete employer solutions over at Glow Resources. Had someone message me today and said, hey, Scone, what's the staffing agency that you always talk about? Want to move back to Louisiana looking for a job. I said, well, you're thinking about Glow Resources, but it's probably not who you want to call, because I always tell you what Glow is by telling you first what they aren't. They are not a temp staffing agency. If you're looking for a job, don't contact Glow. They will find you. Glow Resources wants to talk to you, the business owner, you, the HR manager, you, the hiring coordinator, you, the vice president, the operations manager. If you're the person in your company in charge of putting the right people in the right seats on the bus to maximize efficiency, Glow Resources wants to talk to you. So check them out online. Remember, they have a 96% success rate at Glow Resources. They conduct more than 15,000 interviews over the course of the year. GLO, glowresources.com.
After further review, presented by Relief Windows. Windows, doors, siding, and oh, we do shutters too.
Wrapping up hour number 1, we'll shake up in the NFL. Titans quarterback Will Levis will miss the entire season with a shoulder injury. Decided to have the surgery, which will knock him out for the year. He was expected, Levis was, to be the backup to first overall pick Cam Ward. Instead, now he'll miss the entire season for Tennessee. Complicates things because their only quarterbacks are Brandon Allen and Tim Boyle. So if the New Orleans Saints are, in fact, in contention for the number 1 overall pick this year, this might plunge Tennessee even closer to that number, again, with a rookie quarterback starting now for the entire season. Again, Levis was expected to be the backup to Cam Ward, but you never really know how that may all transpire. Levis was a second-round pick in 2023. So I mean, it is sort of an illustration, though, about how difficult it is to not to hit on a quarterback, especially if you get outside of round 1, as Levis was a second-round pick. But this is going to be an interesting test case to watch with Cam Ward going number 1 overall and now presumably starting the entire season from jump for the Tennessee Titans. We've seen it before. I mean, Jaden Daniels did it a year ago, started every game. It's Caleb Williams as well a year ago with the Chicago Bears. And you're going to see a varying degree of results. Cam Ward is just a fascinating test case because he's a guy who bounced around, from Incarnate Word and Washington State and then down to Miami and had success everywhere he went. One of the talking points we had last week at SC Media Days were a lot of people that were very high on John Mateer coming to Oklahoma from Washington State. And one of the points that I made was I'm not super sold on John Mateer because he threw for over 3,000 yards at Washington State a year ago. I got to see it against better competition. And people would point out that Cam Ward did that. Cam Ward was at Washington State and then went to Miami and blew up there. And I guess I'm just maybe totally disrespecting the ACC defenses. I don't know that having that type of offensive success against the ACC is a great telltale. So I still think there's a lot there for Cam Ward to prove in the NFL. I mean, look, physically, as the body, the arm strength, all that sort of stuff. But if there was any question about would it be Ward or Levis, that has been answered. Will Levis shut down for the year. It'll be Cam Ward for the Titans with Levis having that shoulder surgery. All right, it is after further review. You can email us, tweet us, or text us in the 225-396-4400, 396-4400, 396-4400. Lots of ways you can get involved in the show. We were talking about Kentucky allocating 45% of its revenue share for basketball, which is just, it's going to put its football program at a staggering disadvantage when effectively the rest of the league is all committing 75% or more of their rev share budget to football. Ben Soche said on the text line, said, Matt, any idea how small the percentage for LSU baseball compares to other SEC schools' percentage to their baseball program. So short answer is no. I don't have those numbers yet. We'll start to see some of that leak out. But the interesting part of it is, number one, you're not looking at what the rest of the conference is committing to baseball. Because the reality is there's only a handful of schools. While there's a lot of really good programs in the SEC, there's only a handful of schools committing those kinds of resources to baseball. And it's who you'd think. It's Arkansas, it's Tennessee, Texas, Texas A&M, Georgia, Mississippi State, LSU. Right about half the league. And listen, that's not to say schools like Ole Miss haven't had success, and Florida built a new stadium a few years ago, and Kentucky built a new baseball stadium within the last decade. So there's other programs that have invested in baseball. It's just not to the degree that those competing for and winning championships have, so you're not going to be talking about the same dollars and cents. So the other thing with baseball is you're talking about a differentiation in like their NIL or rev share, that the percentage might be bigger, but the dollar amount isn't. So, for example, if LSU's budget on this past baseball roster was $3 million and Tennessee's was $4 million, well, it's only separated by $1 million. So if we're talking about only $1 million in terms of football rosters, it's not that much. But when you're talking about roughly a third, 33% more budget, that by percentage, it is significant. And so that's why these dollars do matter. Like if LSU baseball is getting $200K of revenue share, well, $1 million in revenue share is massively significant because it helps you close that gap. Just it's going to be one to follow because LSU baseball is an outlier in the revenue share because not many schools have a non-revenue sport that people care that deeply about winning. That's where LSU is with baseball. You're going to have to figure that out. All right, SportsCenter's coming up. We'll get you caught up on national headlines. When we come back, UFC 318 was a gigantic success. The head of the Louisiana Fight Commission, Ronnie Rance, is going to be here to talk about what it's going to take to get the UFC back within the next decade. So they have to wait another decade. And Mike Triplett's here in 20 minutes from right now. Get a Saints training camp preview. Ton to do, and glad you're here on this Monday edition of AFR. We're presented by Relief Windows and ReliefWindows.com. Ton to do. SportsCenter's on the way. Don't you move. It's AFR.
AFR.
If you're thinking of buying land, your first call should be to First South Farm Credit. Visit firstsouthland.com. That's firstsouthland.com. Doesn't matter where you live in Louisiana or even outside of Louisiana, or if you want to buy land outside of Louisiana. Remember, at First South Farm Credit, they can help you buy land in any of the lower 48. So if you want 1,000 acres for agriculture, you want to buy a ranch in Montana, you want to buy 200 acres for a hunting property in Texas or Mississippi, or you want to buy 20 acres in St. Francisville to build your family's dream home, your first call should be to First South Farm Credit. Remember also, as a landowner, you incur expenses, could be tax deductible. Ask your CPA about the benefits of owning recreational timberland. I'm not a CPA, but you should ask yours, and then you should call First South Farm Credit. Go to firstsouthland.com, online, firstsouthland.com.